Hello, this is Larry at LarryRicker.com, and in this video I'm going to go over how to replace the rear brake cylinder on a 2000 Chevy Cavalier. If you like this video, click on the like button below and you can subscribe to my channel. And check out my apps on the Apple App Store. They include Project Organizer Pro, Job Hunt Pro, Opportunity Organizer Pro, Class Organizer Pro, and Student Organizer Pro. Okay, for this operation, I'm gonna need several things. First, need a wire brush, a hammer, a chisel, or actually a chisel or a hole punch, pair of pliers, socket wrench. You need line wrenches. Now, these are, you actually only need the 12mm line wrench, but I've got dual end there. You need a 1/4-inch socket drive, some extra sockets, about 3 pairs of nitrile gloves. They do tear during this operation, and you'll of course need a brake cylinder. So this is a Duralast rear wheel cylinder for the 2000 Chevy Cavalier. I already did the other side of the car, and I'll show that at the end of the video, how to replace the brake line as well, because the brake line got damaged during this procedure on the other side. I don't know how this end's going to work out right now. I did have to swap out the parts because they didn't match. There are 2 types of these brake cylinders for the 2000 Chevy Cavalier, and one's for one size and the other's for the other size, and you really have to take the thing apart and take the part into your auto parts store to get the correct part. You also need wheel chocks for the front tires because you're going to be jacking up the vehicle, jack stands, so that you can jack up the vehicle and have it safe so it doesn't fall on you. Okay, you also need an E8 Torx female socket with your 1/4-inch drive, and that is a star type configuration. That's to loosen up the 2 bolts that are holding the brake cylinder on from the back. I'll be using that. And you need some bolt loosener. I did the other side with WD-40. It didn't work out. The bolts didn't loosen up, so I got a recommendation for something called Freol, and I purchased Freol and I sprayed it about 2 days ago, and it's been sitting on the car. I actually applied it about 3 to 4 times to the car. Hopefully the brake line will spin freely as a result. We'll see how it goes. So you can use Freol, you can use WD-40, or you can use like PB Blaster. Those are different, or whatever your favorite nut loosener is, but definitely need nut loosener for this because the parts will be rusted and seized. Okay, when you apply the WD-40, you want to get it in this joint right here, back here, and because that's your backup plan to get that loose. And you want to put it up here, which I didn't do. And then you want to get some WD-40 on this joint, and of course you want the WD-40 on this brake line and these 2 Torx wrench right here and here, and right over here, right there. And torque WD-40 or your nut loosener around this brake valve here. A couple other things I forgot to mention. You want a vice grips to pinch the line right in that soft spot right there to cut off the brake line fluids so it doesn't all drain out. And you need eye protection before you do any hammering. Okay, so first operation is going to be to take off these torque wrenches. So you put your E8 female socket on there, and it's lefty-loosey, so you want to just turn it left on those. And that one came loose. Then you drop it onto the second one. Okay, and that is also breaking loose. Let's loosen these two E8 Torx with a female E8 socket. And you got to manage your parts here. You got to make sure you don't lose anything. And you may have to just use the socket to completely remove it, even if it's loosened. So I recommend like a cup to put the parts in. So that's an E8 Torx screw. There's a star configuration on the top. I put those in my socket box to not lose them. Another Torx screw, there's two of those. So then you want to remove the cap on your brake line. I already pinched off that brake line so no brake fluid will come out. Set that aside. Then we have, I believe it's a 1/4 inch. That on the brake bleeder that you want to remove. Okay, an 8mm fits over that. So you take your bleeder valve out and set that aside. It's I used a 8mm socket to remove that. Now we've got all the parts off of there except for the brake line, which takes a 12mm line wrench. So you get your 12mm line wrench. You need a line wrench. The reason you need a line wrench is because it slips over the line and it hits 8 points of contact, and it's necessary to get these parts loose, especially when they're rusted. So we'll see how this works. Okay, so normally you would righty-tighty and lefty-loosey, but it's opposite. So the direction you would move is clockwise when you're looking at it, which would be normally a tightening action, but you're on the back side, so you want to reverse the direction. Okay, that twisted. Okay, so the line is moving when I twist, which means I'm going to damage this line. If I continue to twist it, it'll twist right off and break. So the way to circumvent that, it didn't work actually, but we'll try it, is we put our eye protection on, and then we brush around this surface here. And you gotta wear eye protection because you can get dust or little pieces of rust in your eye while brushing this. And that's to allow the penetrating oil to get into the surface and allow it to twist. I don't think it's going to loosen. and therefore this line's going to break, and then I'll be forced to go back to this area here and loosen that one also on the other end, and I'll be forced to loosen this bolt here. You want to really brush it, get the rust out of there. See it penetrating oil can get in there, but it's rusted. The odds of getting this loose are very low. Okay, this product's called Free All, and it was recommended to me to loosen these bolts. I recommend a lot of ventilation in using this product. It is very, very hard to breathe. Okay, I'm starting to round that off, so that is not going to come loose. So another tool I'll need is the vice grips to start twisting this. Now, this doesn't seem to be moving, so I'm not sure exactly what's going on here, but I'm going to start on the other side, pull off this cover, and start working on the back side. Okay, so the next step is this will need a hammer, so we'll put on the fasteners. Okay, so now we need to get these springs off here. First, you need shop towels if you like to get the grease off your hands frequently. Now I add a needle nose pliers. Try to get some leverage. Push these up. I put one tip on the end of the pin, then push on the end of the spring in the opposite direction. There are tools to do this with. You can buy those. Definitely wear a face mask for this one. Or goggles. Anything to protect your eye from flying pieces of rust. Now I got the Phillips screwdriver. I'm going to go get a flathead. Okay, that doesn't always work. You can also grab these with your needle nose and push upward. That doesn't always work either. I've also done this with regular pliers. Whatever you can do to get some leverage. I've got it moved, and you can sort of work it with the pliers, or screwdriver. It's gone. Okay, that worked. So now it's hanging over here. So that's one screw. You got to keep these organized. So if you can organize some kind of thing where, like this is the left side, so you sit on the left side of something to remember where it goes. Now I got two more of these springs on the top here. Could go back to the needle nose. You can also use grab them this way. Pull on. Takes a lot of strength. Okay. That one worked. And then this one, oh, I forgot to mention, you should take a picture of this thing before you take it apart so that you can make sure you can put it back together. Okay, so I paused it and I took some pictures. I recommend that you take a picture coming in this way, a picture coming down on top, a picture coming in from the side, and definitely a few pictures coming up from the bottom. You got a lot of parts here, and you want to make sure everything, you know how to get it all back together. So there's some these springy things on each side that you got to twist and pop. You got another one over here, you got to twist and pop. You got a tensioner down here. That tensioner has a wheel, and then there's a bar that comes down over here that sits on the tensioner, and that has this little arm here. So you got to get that in the right place. There's a spring across the bottom here that pulls tension across the bottom, and as I showed you, there's a spring here and a spring here, and then there's this hook, this wire that comes up and hooks around here. So you definitely want to get a lot of pictures of this whole thing, so you make sure you can get it back together properly. And I recommend a flash. Use a flash when you're taking the pictures, so you got lots of light in there so you can see what's going on. If I can incorporate some of those pictures into the video, I will, in case you forgot that step. Okay, this wire will fall off too. That goes on the left side, so I'm going to set it over here on the left side so that I can know how to get back on. Now this wire is hanging loose, and it's gonna fall off anyway. I kind of know how to get it back on, so I'm just going to pull that aside and set that on the right side of this wheel so I know where it goes back. So now this is not spring-loaded anymore, but it can only move a certain amount of distance. And in order to get it to move further, I really got to take this pin, this spring-loaded pin off of here. And it's held through a wire that goes through the back. So you push down on this and twist. And if you do it just right, it pops loose. I recommend a pair of needle nose pliers for this. And you can grab it on the outer part and press and hold it in back. You're twisting it. You gotta press it to take the tension off of it so that it aligns with the wheel to get loose. Okay, it partially popped loose there. There it came. Okay, so it looks like this. Spring-loaded wheel with a disc on top, and the pin comes through the back and goes through that center part of the wheel and then twists sideways to hold it in place. And that's on the right side, so I'm going to set it over here on the wheel on the right side so that I can remember to get this back together properly. Now, I'll pull this pin through, push it through the back. That's also for the right side, so I'll set it over here to stay organized. And then now this side will be able to move. It can move down and over like that, and that gives me space to get this this piece here, which is the master cylinder for the rear brakes, out, and I'm going to push it this way. But I can't do that until I get this brake line off of it, so I have to figure that part out, free that up, and then I'll be able to move that. Now, to break that loose, there's a piece of metal here that kind of lays in here sideways across. That's if you take that out, you'll get a little more space to move it. Now I can move now because it's not bolted in, but it's not moving right away. It's not going to move until you free it up. To free it up, you're going to have to kind of give it a little persuasion to move. So you can sort of work in here with your pliers and try to press it. Okay, it moved that way. Okay, so now it's free. And then you can sort of pull it back this way. It's only going to go so far. And the brake line, oh, the brake line came loose. Okay, and the brake line is spinning freely on the brake line, the tip. So that means this may not be as complicated as the other side, thank God. Okay, now this piece is loose now at this point. Now you have to twist it sideways back this way and push it out that way. And I needed a hammer to do that last time. We'll see if I can get it out without a hammer. I doubt it. And I recommend lubricant when you're putting this thing back in. I put literal lubricant on the top and the sides because these parts are rusty and they don't slide easily over each other. And last thing you need is friction trying to move this thing. So make a mess. Put lots of lubricant on it. So it's stuck in a hole that goes into the back plate. So you need to get it free of that. And so you kind of work it back and forth. Now, one thing I should mention is there's a big round hole here, and there's little holes here. And you should align this over the big hole, and that just happened. I got lucky. I wasn't even thinking about that, but that's how it ended up being. And then when you get this free, and get it up enough, then you'll be able to just spin it out and move it sideways. Now last time this didn't come loose easily, and I don't think this will be any exception. It just doesn't seem to have enough room to work in here. So it's still catching on the sides of that hole. So you want to sort of twist it. I'm twisting this way actually, not backwards, this way. Well, at this point I could take this mask off. Nothing's really going to hit me in the face here until I start hammering again. So I'm twisting backward, And so like a motion like this. And it's clear of the hole at this point. Feels like it's, no, it's got a little bit of a lip back in the hole, so you gotta get back further. And you can kind of work it through this hole, press it up, press it down. One thing, wiggling it, trying to get it in the right position. Kind of wiggle it, get under here, and see if you can get it to clear that hole. It's not going to come out of there until it's out of the hole completely. It's loose, so that gives me a lot of room to kind of move it and maneuver it. Maybe if I can get it up here, it would free up the backing plate, and then if I rotate it, I don't like to just bang on things. You break stuff that way, but it may need some persuasion. Still sticking in the hole a little bit. Okay. Kind of looks like it's clear the hole, maybe. If-ish. Kinda. So I'll put my mask back on. And I'm gonna degrease a little bit here. Grab my hammer and my punch, which I have here. I'm going to put the punch on the side of the metal, on the side of this part that I'm replacing. And I'm just okay, my tip of my brake line just fell off, which tells me that the flare is torn off the brake line. So the flare got caught on the tip when it twisted off, so therefore the flare was fused onto the tip, and therefore I'm going to have to replace this brake line back to, hopefully just to back to this point, at this point. Okay, so we got it loose. Not elegant, but loose. So that's the old master brake cylinder right side that we're replacing with the new part. Okay, there's a brake cleaner. Drop plan going under there to catch all this. Just clean it up a little. That's grimy out. And I recommend a garbage bag nearby so you can quickly throw away anything. Including, check your gloves, make sure they're sealed so you're not getting, feel coolness, so I want to make sure the brake cleaner's not coming through my gloves. This is the new piece. That's just going to slide in. Before you slide it in, you have to remove this seal on the back. That's discardable actually. And you have to remove this bleeder valve. I used a 8mm on the other one, so I'm going to take this cap off Make sure you don't lose any of this stuff. Probably have the 8mm socket still on here. And then you take that out. Set that aside. You can put that back in when you put it in. And you're going to slide this in exactly the way the other one came out. But I'm going to put some anti-seize grease here, 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 and on the inside of there, so it slides nicely. Because this is difficult enough. Make it easier for yourself. Okay, so here's my anti-seize grease. I'm going to put some of that. I'm going to be kind of liberal with this because it was challenging last time. I'm going to put it across the bottom here. And this surface tends to rub as you're sliding it in there. And then these I'm going to put anti-seize in for later just to make sure those are taken care of. And then the torque holes are going to go in those holes. So just get a little anti-seize around those for the future. If you have to take this back out, it'll be a lot easier if it doesn't seize up and parts don't break. So I'm going to slide it in this way, and it needs to kind of twist backwards so it clears the hole. So in order to, I should put some on the surface in here where it's going to be rubbing, and put some around this hole. Kind of makes a mess, but this is just to make your life easier. And I'm going to rub it on the back here in case it runs into some friction on there too. It's basically going to, it's very tight in here and it's hard to get it in, so you're better off making your life easier. Seems almost too big. Before you even get into this, I should mention, take your old part and pair it up. Make sure it is exactly the same part. Particularly, the way you can tell the difference between the two is the distance of the holes, these Torx holes. If they match, then you got the right one. And then this thing bumps out like this. The other one doesn't come out as much, so you have to distinguish between the two and get the right master cylinder for your particular wheel. And it's based on whether it's a 7 or 8-inch hub here. The other one might be for the Z24, if you can find one of those to work on. I haven't seen one in a long time. Other places, like, well, I already got some on there, but just put a little more. And it's going to rub on this back here. I forgot to get some grease on there. Making a real mess, but okay, that got it in there. Okay, so the way that worked is you take it and you tilt it, not back, but you tilt it forward and then slide it in. That seems to work. And it has to align with this big hole while it's twisting through there. You gotta get it all the way over. And then it's lined up with the hole in the back. So then, now you have to begin the operation of twisting it into the hole. So you got this little hole here to work with. And you have to twist it. It's got to rotate this way. This big hole here is important. You could alternate with your flat-headed screwdriver. Just be careful never to damage the gaskets on the side. Okay, now it's in place, and now it's just a matter of, you can clean up a little bit if you made a mess. It's just securing it. Now I'm going to have to replace this brake line back here because the flare got damaged. It's part of the removal process. So I'm going to have to loosen this bolt right here, and I have to get this one loose. And I'm using Freeall. Recommend spraying it and then leaving it sitting for a long period of time. As long as you can manage. Go get lunch. Go have a coffee break. This bolt broke on the other side. Let's see if this one works any better with the Freeall on there. Again, I sprayed it 2 days ago, and I don't know if this is snapping or coming loose. The other side I had to drill this hole out and drill a new hole and tap and die it to secure this brake line. Okay, thank God that bolt did come out successfully. So I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to put some anti-seize on there. Well, I'm not going to do it now, but I definitely want to put anti-seize on there. And I put that back in. Now the next one is the other end of the brake line over here. Now this part here, this is like a Y-shaped bracket. You can pull that apart. Set that aside. Wipe that off. Make everything messy doing this. Set that over here. And then I gotta get this other end of this brake line loose. And then I'll go down too. So that brake line will completely come out. And then I'm gonna try the line wrench on this. So I'm going to put this one with a 12mm. You can see the vice grips on the soft line there, stopping the brake fluid from running in here. Let's see how we do on this. Okay, that's firmly on there. Now I'm going to grab a pipe to give myself a little leverage. See if this will snap loose. Okay. I felt it move. It either. Not having any success with the line wrench. It didn't on the other side either. So, just brushing on it real hard. Now, the other technique I saw online was snip it. Snip it and use a 12mm socket on it. And I have to replace the line anyway at this point. So there's no loss in snipping it. You want to hold on to the part because you got to get an exact replacement at the auto parts store. So I'm going to get some snips, snip that line, and then put a 12mm socket on it. So for the snipping operation, I'm going to use a pair of 10 snips. Light duty of that. Now that's the brake line. It's full brake fluid, so you want to be careful with that. Drip it into your drip plant pan and set it down. And then we'll try the 12mm socket extraction technique. Okay, so I got my 3/4 inch socket, and then I'll get my 12mm. It's a 9mm. It's 13. Okay, we don't have a 12mm here. I'll go get another set. Okay, I got my 12mm socket and put that on my Carlisle here, and we'll lefty-loosey on this. Slip it over this brake line. The more points, the better. This is a 6-point, which exactly matches the brake line. Okay. Use the pipe again. Okay, so now we've got our 12mm end, got our brake line, and the other end, which fell down into here. And I'm going to need a magnet to pull that out. So I'm going to bag up these parts to take to the auto parts store to get a replacement brake line. It's important to have the exact length so they can match it. So, easiest way to match the length is to bring all the parts that you have to the auto parts store. And I need to get that one more piece that fell down. I couldn't find my... Or you can use needle nose pliers to extract it. Okay, when you're putting in a brake line, a replacement brake line, start with the most rigid part first. Put that in, and then work on the parts that are more movable afterwards. It's very important that the line goes in straight, and there's no bending going on the line when it's put into the connector. So, that being said, the most rigid part of the line is going to be this part back here because it's all bolted down and connected. So when your line comes, it comes with a sticker on it. So you take that off, and then I don't think this will, oh, it will slide over it. Okay, so I can leave that on there. And I'm going to hit this with some my anti-seize grease so it goes in there nice and smooth, and more importantly, it comes out later if I have to ever replace it again. Maybe it won't snap or strip or whatever. So I can't get the line straight into that hole because there's no way to do that. So I have to start off by putting a bend in this line. But this line is longer than the old line. It's much longer. Probably are interested in the length of this. Looks like about 2 feet. Let me get a measuring tape. Okay, this line is 30 inches long, which is 2.5 feet. So it's much longer than the line I'm replacing. The line that I am replacing is it's probably like 18 inches, but if you stretched it out straight, it would be oh, maybe 2 foot. No, nowhere's near that. Maybe 20 inches, but they recommended a longer length, and that way you have more room to work with, but it's not going to be down as tight as the old line. The old line was right down snug against everything. This line's going to loop up and take a more circuitous route to the destination. So, since I have more line to work with, I'm going to work on giving it that longer, more circuitous route. So what I'll do is start bending it, but my bend is going to go up in a big loop, and then it's going to kind of come back down to where it came from, and then go down to the fender, and then it's going to come down and then get down to that bar where it's going to be screwed in, and then it's going to take a bend in the opposite direction, and then come back up, and then it's going to bend over, and it's going to have to bend and flare at the end in the opposite direction to line up with the hole. So we end up with something that's going to look roughly like this shape. And this is flexible. The main thing is it bends easily, but you want to make sure that you don't kink it. You don't want to ever kink the line. And that's the most important thing. So you just want gradual bends. So you want to sort of support it when you're bending it. So it's going to go up here in this spot, and then it's going to come around, and then come up, land on here, and then come up, and then come into the back of here. So let's work on this spot first. So I'm going to put a little anti-seize in this hole. Make sure that's all looped up, and that way we're not going to cross thread anything, and we'll get in here good. Feels like it's in there, but I'm just going to back it out and then screw it in again. Make sure it's not cross-threaded at all. 12mm line wrench. And I'm on my second pair of gloves. The other pair kind of wore right through. Okay, so after I got this all back together, I went to try to put this back on, and it won't fit. It won't go on there, no matter how much I press it and pry at it. So I looked at the photos, and then I realized that the plate that's in here, the one that goes across, I pulled out, well, it's in upside down. So I'm going to take that out and reverse it. So those photos are really important. So the procedure to pull that one out is going to be take this spring off, and you use your face mask while you're doing this. Okay, and then once you have that off, then you can take this off again. So the procedure is to push and twist. You got to get the thing lined up so it comes through that crack. You put your finger on the back side. It helps to hold the back side on. Okay. Now I'll just pull this side out, and then I'm going to pull this plate out, and that's where these springs come from. They're cylinder on this side. So that needs to be on the right side. So flip that over. You can pull this pin out temporarily. That's the pin that goes in the back. Now we'll put this back up here. It's got to go inside of that. Okay. Now it could be actually upside down now still, so you can flip it over this way. And that side won't go in that way, so it's got to be this way. It's got to go in that deep. Put this piece back on here. Now you can do this with your hand. It might be easier when you're reassembling it. Just kind of line it and then press it down. And then when you get it in, twist. Okay, that's just a little twist. We might want a little more twist. So you can press it in. That's pretty ideal. Okay, then we gotta get this back over there. And for that, I use the pliers. I recommend eye protection when doing any of this. Slaps in place. Okay, now the trick would be when this goes on, whether it slides on easily. Okay, it's my third pair of gloves. The next step is going to be to bleed the brakes. So I hook the hose up to the bleeder valve. Take the cap off. Set the cap in my socket box so I don't lose it. And then I get my water bottle and put that over the end here of the hose. Now I'm going to watch the fluid come up through here. Ask her to press it down and hold it. Release the fluid. Tighten it. Ask her to press and hold it. Release, press, hold. And bleed it out. And then I have an 8mm wrench to tighten the bleeder valve when I'm all done. So I'm increasing the tension. I loosened it up quite a bit. It's still kind of easy. Get a little bit of friction. Oh, that's okay. I got wrapped up in this tensioning while I was waiting. Don't press the pedal yet.
Okay.
We're getting a little more friction. I think that's more or less what I got on the other side. That should be good. Maybe a couple more twists. Yeah. Don't get too carried away. This tire wore out faster than the other side, so I might leave it a little less tense. Okay, release it. Okay, press it down. Okay, release it. Press it down. I'll hold it. Okay, release it. Okay, press it down and hold it.
Getting a little harder.
Good, okay. All right, release it. Press it down and hold it. Okay, release it. Press it down, hold it. Okay, release it. Okay, press it down, hold it. Okay, one more time. Press it down, hold it. Okay, good enough. Let's call it a day. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Always cap it at the bleeder valve so it doesn't get dirt in it. Now we're ready to seal this up and put tire back on. Take for a test drive and go work on the bodywork. Now, in case I didn't go over the safety, I always usually do. I've got a floor jack here, got a jack stand there, a jack, and I've got a jack stand under the rear of the vehicle on the tow point over here. And I do have safety glasses on when I'm working on the car, especially when I'm banging on things with a hammer. So